Hey, what's going on, everybody? Doing the lesson from my back deck today, so outside since it's so nice out. And really, we're going to go into the excretory system today. We finished up with digestion in the last lesson, and with digestion, a lot of that undigested material, basically cellulose, is collected in the rectum, and that is what the feces are. It's what poop is, right? It's what's released out there. The excretory system is focused on, and that material is actually never entered the body, so it's not being excreted from you. It's just being released from your alimentary canal. It's what hasn't been absorbed. The excretory system is focused on, what has been absorbed into the body and what's being released back out of the body. And when we focus on the excretory system, we focus mainly on nitrogenous waste, which is urine. Nitrogenous waste is what you get when you break down amino acids in the liver. And different organisms get rid of that nitrogenous waste, or the type of nitrogenous waste, in different ways, which I'll highlight in a second. So we look at the excretory system. It really involves skin, right? You can excrete from your skin, lungs, and kidneys, and the real functional one here we're going to focus on is the kidneys. Looking at a little bit of kind of the history of the excretory system, really we when we break amino acids down, we get ammonia. Ammonia is not a compound you want to have in your system. You do not want to drink ammonia. It'd be like drinking bleach. You do not want to have that in your system. So what we do in your liver is we convert the nitrogenous waste from amino acids. We convert it from ammonia into urea. And urea is something that is soluble, that can get into your bloodstream. Doesn't affect you that much as long as the concentrations don't get high. And then when it filters from your liver to your kidneys, we filter that urea out at your kidneys to excrete, in urine. So we use urea. Really, if you look at this, ammonia is a key thing here. Ammonia is a fairly nasty chemical, but organisms that are aquatic organisms can just get rid of ammonia directly, right? It can easily diffuse into the fluid around them. They don't need to collect it in their bodies. It's constantly just diffusing out of their system. So aquatic organisms can really just excrete the ammonia directly. Okay. Looking at organisms that develop in eggs, since urea, there's a couple different things, but the main thing is, one key thing is since urea is so soluble, you don't want this nitrogenous waste being soluble floating around a developing egg, because there's no way to get rid of the waste material while that embryo is developing. So therefore, organisms that produce eggs will typically produce this uric acid. It's less soluble. It's that white pasty stuff you might see in your car when a bird flies over sometimes. But birds, reptiles, insects, a lot of insects, not all insects, but many of them produce this uric acid. It's not as soluble as urea, so therefore it kind of can be collected in the egg and can be separated, in a sense, from the other fluid in the egg. And then with mammals, it's urea. Kind of the trend of structures, we're going to focus on the nephron as really the functional unit of your kidney. But really kind of this evolutionary trend, we have this nephridia, which are kind of primitive nephrons. Nephridia are in earthworms, right? And they really kind of do the same thing our nephrons do. They filter out urea. In insects with this uric acid, insects have these things called Melpighian tubes. You're not going to be quizzed on this part anyways. I'm just kind of saying it because it's SAT2 stuff. But then they're kind of in insects, and they help to kind of collect that uric acid. All right, so here's our kidney, right? So we have two kidneys, one on either side, and really they're just the filtration system of our body. When we look at our kidneys, really what we have millions and millions of these little filtration units known as nephrons. So nephrons are located all throughout this intersection of your kidneys, and all these little nephrons there's collection of these little tubules that are intertwined with capillaries, and there's just a lot of exchange of materials between the nephrons, the tubules, and your capillaries, trying to filter out this waste products. All of these nephrons will connect essentially into your ureter, and your ureter will connect to your bladder, is essentially what it is. So all these millions of nephrons all connect together to your ureter and eventually lead to your bladder. That's where that urea is collected, urine is collected, and it is excreted. Some key structures with our kidney here, or with our nephron, is we have this glomerulus. So this glomerulus is this little section right here of kind of this globular section of capillaries. There's a lot of exchange going on there, a lot of fluid, a lot of materials are being released there. That material is not just being released into your body, it's being released into this tubule system. You see this light brown system here. This is a tubule system that's allowing for materials to be exchanged back and forth. So we filter out a lot of this glomerulus, and it's captured in this capsule surrounding it known as the Bowman's capsule. And again, there's a lot of exchange here. There's a lot of passive transport. There's a lot of active transport. We're really not going to go into too many details. We're just going to give you a general overview of how this works. So how like I kind of like oversimplify this, kind of how your kidneys work. They work in a way of kind of like how you would clean your fridge. If you ever cleaned your fridge before, maybe you've watched your mom or dad clean the fridge. Technically what you kind of do is you kind of take everything out of the fridge, all the bad stuff, all the good stuff, you take it out, you wipe everything down, you throw the bad stuff away, and the good stuff is reabsorbed or taken back into the fridge. You put it back into the fridge. It's kind of how your kidneys work, right? A lot of things are filtered out of your kidneys, and this glomerulus and the first part of your tubule system here are filtered out of your blood into the tubules. A lot of good stuff, a lot of bad stuff, a lot of water, which we want to conserve water. That's some of the good stuff. And we start by taking a lot of things out. Some of it's passive transport, some of it's active transport. As material goes through this loop right here, this is called the loop of Henle. It's just part of your tubule system. But there's a lot of exchange going on there where salts are being exchanged, water's being exchanged, right? And we're actually actively pumping salts out into your capillary system, which is forcing us kind of out of equilibrium. But how do we get back to equilibrium? If I have a high salt concentration and I can't move salts, you move water. So you kind of have this active transport of moving salts out will cause this passive transport of water exchange as well. So you really get this kind of active and passive transport going on, getting rid of all this waste material, reabsorbing your water. Whatever's not reabsorbed will eventually get collected in your tubule and eventually kind of connect to the ureter, again, connecting to your bladder. So looking at this a little bit closer, you can kind of see here's your glomerulus surrounded by the Bowman's capsule, right? There's going to be a lot of exchange here at the Bowman's capsule. It's going to be a lot of exchange here at the initial tubule because it's closest. We call it the proximal tubule. And then we have our loop of Henle here. And then here's our distal tubule, and there's different exchanges going on at all these different locations. But you can see it's all intertwined with your capillaries. So basically what we're doing is we're trying to get all the waste material out of your capillaries into this tubule system. That involves taking some water out. In turn, we want to put the water back from the tubule system back into your capillaries. Whatever doesn't get put back gets collected in this collection duct, this tubule, and eventually goes to your ureter. If you want to kind of look at it in three categories of going on, we have filtration. Filtration is essentially kind of filtering materials out of your capillary system, out of your blood. Kind of more of a passive transport. Reabsorption, waters, other materials are kind of reabsorbed. And then secretion is kind of like the active transport of materials being secreted out of your capillaries into your tubule system. So you can kind of look at that. So this is kind of more of a passive concept. This is more of an active transport concept. You can kind of see it here. I'm actually going to go on the next slide because it just gives a better image. And what you have here, right? So here's your glomerulus, here's your Bowman's capsule. This is really focused on salt and water, right? You have active transport of all these different materials, but we're really kind of actively transporting out of your tubule system into your tissues, but essentially these are kind of like your capillaries. So we're pumping salts out, right? When we're pumping salts out, what that causes, it causes movement of water. By having high salt concentrations, you have this imbalance of equilibrium, so therefore you have a lot of water movement trying to reach equilibrium. So you can kind of see there's this exchange of both water and salts, and that balance of back and forth. By moving salts, it causes more water movement. By causing more water movement, it causes movement of less salts. Right? It's just kind of this exchange of material. As this happens, right, we eventually want to collect our water back into you can see here, our water is going back into our capillaries, right? And then here in our tubule system, we're basically trying to get rid of all of that waste material going on there. All right. So the excretory system, we don't really go into too much detail. We'll just kind of give you a quick overview. So that's it. Nice and quick for the excretory system. We're going to go in the nervous system next, but this will probably involve a few a few videos for the nervous system, because we go into the nervous system with a little bit of detail. So thanks for listening. Hopefully you got outside today. It's a nice day, and I will talk to you soon. Thank you.